1970s and 80s have become known for the prevalence of brutish slasher villains, the 1930s through to the early 1960s was the time when monster horror really took the torch. And right up until today, as everyone from screenwriters to the special effects crew knows, having a terrifying monster in your film is simply not optional. And thankfully, we've been treated to plenty of brilliant baddies over the years. However, not all of these horrors come in the best films. So we are on a mission to uncover the very best monsters the film world has to offer from the movies that people have rubbished ever since their release. I must stress very much though that these are movies either designed to be so bad they're good or just lesser reviewed movies by the general public. Horror movies are a wonder all across the spectrum, and being denoted as terrible doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. Hell, some of these here are ones that I have had a great time with. We're just focusing on the monsters that were a cut above their actual production. In either case, I am the terrible Ash from the terrifying What Culture, and these are 9 terrifying monsters wasted in terrible horror movies. 9. The Creature, the Creeping Terror. Quite unfairly panned as one of the world's worst science fiction horror flicks, The Creeping Terror was let loose to the public all the way back in 1964. Following the story of our hero, Martin Gordon, The Creeping Terror starts out almost as a supernatural mystery, teasing us with a dead sheriff and an alien spaceship quite some time before we even get a hint of what the ship owner might look like. Eventually, however, we're treated to a side of the film's creature via a killing rampage against a bikini girl, a housewife, grandpa and grandson Brown, a bunch of picnickers, and some traditional teenagers at a local dance hall. The Creeping Terror is a long, thin, worm-like monster that is caked in leaves and sprouts some pretty intimidating tentacles from the top of its head. Whilst it moves like a snail, its ability to devour its victims whole makes for some pretty shocking kills. And that crackly snarling it makes on the hunt is truly something out of this world. It's not the best movie, but it is stupid fun, and the quality of the monster really does surpass its filmic confines. 8. Castillo, House of the Dead. The 2003 horror film based on the undeniably lovable video game of the same name, House of the Dead is not a good film. Super low budget and a walking cliche to the very end, it is a film that doesn't really add a whole lot to the genre. With that being said though, the character of Castillo is undoubtedly the standout of the film and is actually a pretty scary foe for our heroes to come up against. Played by David Palfy of Stargate SG-1 fame, Samano was a Spanish Catholic priest who was banished from the country for dabbling in experiments that were deemed unnatural. Hitching a ride on a boat, he killed its captain and embarked on a one-man mission to continue his work on an island's inhabitants in peace. Everything about Samano's appearance is striking, and easily stands him out from his zombie brethren, with his Frankenstein-esque look showing off the skin of the victims who have been unfortunate enough to stumble across him and his zombie creations. There's not a lot in House of the Dead that I can say with much confidence will stick with you. However, Castillo probably stands the best chance. 7. Vincent Sinclair, House of Wax 2005. House of Wax was released back in 2005 and is generally seen as being a pretty bad film. Based on a story written by screenwriter Charles Belden, House of Wax is your archetypal slasher flick. A mysterious foe hunts down a group of teenagers, taking them down one at a time until we're left with a standoff between the baddie and our final girl. It's a plot that has been done countless times in the past, even if it does still have its moments. However, House of Wax does manage to redeem some points for itself in its unique and terrifying foes, brothers Beau and Vincent Sinclair. Unlike most slasher films, the Sinclair brothers are given a good amount of screen time before actually being revealed, adding to their overall terror and lending the film some serious tension. Vincent is definitely the more memorable of the two brothers, with his distinctive long hair, wax mask, and horrific scarring carrying the film's terror throughout. His silent demeanour and brutal obedience under Beau ends up leaving him resembling more monster than man. 6. Annabelle. Sadly, there is no denying that the first Annabelle film is a bit of a mess. But ever since she was teased to us by Ed and Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring, there has always been something truly chilling about this demonic doll. Ignoring the fact that even with a demon inside her, Annabelle might just be the worst looking doll any of us have ever seen, the story of John and Mia Form's haunting is one of the most frustrating visuals we have ever seen in the world of modern horror. When she does want to remind the audience that they are indeed watching a scary horror movie, Annabelle specialises in mainly moving household objects around and writing instructions in blood along the house's walls and ceilings. Her most chilling moments come when she is left on a chair in the background, however, letting her creepy looks do all of the talking for her. Whilst the original is still a dud, just one look at the Annabelle trilogy's box office record should serve as the biggest reminder of just how punchy this doll's chills are for us. 5. The Ginger Dead Man. The Ginger Dead Man. Taking the form of something plucked straight from your worst nightmares, this bakery-based baddie is the worst horror antagonist we never knew we needed. The Ginger Dead Man opens up with Millard Findelmeyer and his frenzied killing spree in a local Texas diner. He is sentenced to die by electric chair, but his crazy witch mother then mixes his cremated ashes into a gingerbread dough and leaves it at the bakery of the woman who sent him to the chair. This disgusting-looking, knife-wielding villain spends the film on the hunt for revenge, hacking, slashing, and throwing people into ovens in what is easily the most bizarre series of kills you are ever likely to find. Between the typical low-budget slasher kills we've all come to know and love, and the all-round disgusting look of the film's killer cookie, I'm struggling to decide what looks worse. To say that reviews of the debut appearance of the Ginger Dead Man were mixed would probably be a little too generous. So whilst I'm not sure if it's his awful cheap look or actually being scary, the Ginger Dead Man remains a scary, if let down, horror movie villain. 4. The Predator. The Predator. Plagued by some serious controversies behind the camera and a whole load of rewrites and reshoots, the film is a messy combination of poorly written characters and just an abundance of humour that either doesn't work or is just way over the top. Perhaps the only thing the Predator can cling on to is the fact that it absolutely nails how its big baddies are portrayed. Kicking off with the film's first Predator, we get some seriously intimidating shots of a Predator's hand-to-hand combat and acrobatic skills, something we hadn't really seen a whole lot of in the past, as well as the usual plethora of scary weaponry and gruesome kills. Throw in the Predator's bloodhounds, which are definitely unique if slightly let down in execution, and the reveal of an even bigger, more powerful group of Predator hunters, and you have a film with some seriously scary bad guys. 3. Roman. Robot Monster. In what genuinely has to be up there in a list of the most out there movies ever conceived and put to film, Robot Monster is the story of alien robot Roman's mission to invade Earth and wipe out humanity. The story kicks off with Roman whittling humanity down to just 8 survivors, one of whom he eventually falls in love with and refuses to harm. Roman's leader, named the Great Guidance, is then forced to come down to Earth, kills Roman for refusing to harm the survivors, and attempts to bring about the end of humanity by unleashing an army of prehistoric dinosaurs and kicking off a huge earthquake. Still with me? There is something about these timeless classics that seems to make their villains grow scarier as the years go by. Roman takes the form of a large gorilla in a spacesuit throughout the film, something that really shouldn't be scary in the slightest. However, his grainy quality and oversized outfit really is quite off-putting. 2. The Crocodile. Lake Placid. For better or for worse, Lake Placid is a series that has slowly become the poster boy for the late 90s/early 2000s genre of low-budget monster horror movies. The first in a line of 6 films, the original Lake Placid revolves around the usual group of potential victims hunting down a giant man-eating crocodile. Weighing in at 30 foot and inhabiting the saltwater lands of Black Lake, Maine, a lot of the film is based on the characters actually trying to work out how you kill a beast the size of this. And don't let the more outlandish, almost comedic tone of the series' later films take away from what this first film is setting out to achieve either. The film hugely benefits from the vast open reaches of its British Columbia sets, and Stan Winston Studios naturally do a great job in bringing this terrifying nightmare to life. With all of that being said though, there's usually only one reason why a horror series starts to find itself drifting down towards the comedy route, and that is poor reviews. A 46% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 34 out of 100 on Metacritic is never going to blow anyone away, after all. 1. The Blob. The Blob. One of the absolute legends of the early horror genre and an infamous movie in the history of cinema, The Blob was one of the very first supernatural releases of its day. Originally named The Molten Meteor, the film was written up to be fit for the teen driving craze of the 1950s. And this film really is as bonkers as it sounds. Set in rural Pennsylvania, the Blob emerges from a crashed meteor from outer space and quickly begins its rampage against humanity. As it consumes more and more humans, the monster starts to change its color to a blood red, and eventually grows to the size of even the biggest of buildings. Immune to everything from guns to grenades, the only way to stop this intergalactic being is the cold. Unfortunately, whilst the film certainly does have a cult following these days, you know you have something of an issue with your release when critics in 1958 are heavily criticizing the special effects for your big scary monster. Even the legendary Steve McQueen, making his debut on the silver screen, was not able to stand out to the critics at the time. Terrible by everyone else's standards, yes, but beloved by the best of us. And that's our list. What other lackluster horror movies had an absolutely banging villain? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash, and this has been What Culture. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and come back again soon for some more spine-tingling horror content. Thanks for watching.